Hi, welcome Marketing 021 class. Today we begin our module on branding, discussing the power of brands. And this is one of my most favorite topics in marketing because brands are in many ways one of the most fundamental building blocks in creating a marketing plan so that you can talk to consumers about what your business, product, or service stands for and how you're going to articulate that to consumers, both in words as well as the different media you choose, for example, television ads or social media, et cetera, et cetera. So now let's dive into brands and a little bit about the history of brands. Brands started back in the 1800s. And interestingly enough, it really was branding of livestock, where the whole idea of putting a logo on something that stood for something began. And then in the late 1800s, packaged goods like Coca-Cola, and by the way, I had the privilege to work in marketing at Coca-Cola for several years, that type of logo started taking off, and brands were then used to differentiate them from the generic competition. So, for example, in Coca-Cola, it was about other sodas or things like that. So then, what is a brand today? Let's start by quoting a couple of famous thinkers from brands. First, David Ogilvy, who started one of what is today still the biggest and most successful global advertising agencies. He defined brands as the intangible sum of products' attributes. The dictionary of brand defines brands as a person's perception of a product, service, experience, or organization. So, for example, brands are a bundle of attributes, values, and perceptions. So I've put up here the brand Chanel, which I think a lot of you know stands for luxury and I think different accessories and clothing. And that certainly does not equal Gap. Now, it doesn't mean that one brand is better or worse than another. They just stand for different things. And you have to be very careful as a marketer when you're trying to reach out to your potential consumers and discuss your brand that they'll believe you. So, for example, you can't just decide that you want your brand to be cool. A good example of that in my mind would be like Walmart. Definitely a very powerful brand, means a lot of great things to many people. But in my humble opinion, it's never going to be cool, right? Ultimately, brands are about emotions. So when you ask people why certain brands matter to them, they could probably give you maybe a list of rational reasons, but ultimately it really comes down to how they feel about it and how attached they are to it. So I've put up here, I think you probably all know this is the Starbucks logo. So let's just stop here for a second, people. I'd love you guys to just take literally 10, 15 seconds and pop into the Zoom chat here what you think about or what you feel about Starbucks. And we can learn a lot, speaking of brands, when we analyze successful brands. And here are just a few examples of them. Nike, which of course you all know, which stands for many things, performance, also I'd say a lot of cachet and many, many, many things. Here's the logo for the James Bond film. I'm excited about that. Tide, obviously a really strong brand in household care and cleaning. And then I bet we all know what that bullseye stands for. That's Target. Next, let's talk about, because again, marketing at the end of the day is about selling things or getting people to use your brand in the way you want. So it's important to understand the value of that brand. And again, as we've discussed, brands, can be a little fuzzy about exactly what they mean, but there is a way to do some quantification of brand value, like what's it worth. Just again, for fun, I'm going to pop up a little poll in our Zoom there. You'll see it pop up on your screen. And Forbes magazine does an annual list of, I believe it's the 100 most valuable brands around the world. And how they calculate that is it's a combination of revenue of the company, profitability, and then they do kind of some method where they apply that value to the particular brand. So again, just for fun, we're just going to do a quick little survey here, and we'll review the results a little later in our class today. I just would like to hear your guess. And again, this is not graded or anything, totally for fun. That according to Forbes, do you think Coca-Cola or Facebook has a higher brand value? Quick guess. Second question is, which brands do you think gained more brand value in 2020 versus 2019? Netflix or Amazon? As we all know, many brands did better during the pandemic, some worse. So you might want to think about that as you're doing your guess. And again, we'll go over that a little later in class. Now let's move on and discuss what I call the holy grail of beginning that process of marketing your brand, and it's called brand positioning. So this is what a brand positioning statement looks like. This is the template, and I'm going to walk you through it here. So first, we start with 2, the consumer target. So who are you going after? What's their age? What's their gender? Maybe what we call psychographic. What's their mindset? Are they cutting edge people who are always trying the newest product? So who's your consumer target? Who do you define who that is? Next, brand. What's the brand you're trying to market? It's the brand of what we call context. So what's it competing against? For example, if you're a video game, you're competing against certainly other video games, but you're probably also competing against maybe a little broader range of things, such as maybe television shows or streaming services or other activities that a person could be doing with their time. That is now moving along, the point of difference. So what makes that brand different? So they being the consumer, what's the benefit they get out of it at the end? So why should they care? Why should they care about your brand? And then of course you have to give them a reason why they can believe that end benefit. So let's just do a little example. I just randomly picked a Tesla Model S. I think those look pretty cool, and maybe someday I'll be able to afford one. So here's what their brand positioning would look like. To sports car drivers who want performance, so that's the consumer target. Tesla Model S is a luxury long-range electric automobile, so that's who they're competing against. And there are other luxury long-range automobiles. I believe Audi has one, I think BMW, probably some other car companies. And what's the point of difference? It's on the cutting edge of technology, and the end benefit is so the consumer can experience unparalleled, exhilarating performance. And why? Now, why should you believe that? Because of Tesla Model S's all-electric powertrain. It accelerates from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. I think that's about 60 miles per hour or something like that, in as little as 2.7 seconds. That's fast. And it has autopilot capabilities designed to make your highway driving not only safer, but stress-free. So that's what the positioning statement would be for Model S. So now, in summary, so just of our intro to talking about branding, just a few things. Even though it can be difficult to define a brand, it really is a critical thing. And we start with the positioning strategy for the brand, like we just went over how you define it, what it means. And ultimately, once you have alignment among yourself and obviously your colleagues or whoever you're working with, what makes your brand unique, you can build a marketing strategy around it. Like just one last example, let's say for your position, you're going after teens. When you start to talk about marketing strategy, then you might select different types of media or the way you are going to articulate your message. You might pick social media. Whereas, for example, if you've had an older consumer, say over 50 or 60, television might be better for you because they're going to be watching more television or maybe radio versus, let's say, doing social media. So with that, that's our intro to the power of brand. And now we're going to take a little break, and then we'll come back and talk about that assignment I mentioned earlier. Thank you.